Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Pam Greenwalt, SAG-AFTRA's Chief Communications and Marketing Officer. Want to say a few words about structure, timing, signal quality, and some other things before we get rolling. We are going to have statements by our principals, who I'll be introducing in just a moment, followed by a Q&A session. You can indicate your interest in asking a question by raising your hand in Zoom, and we'll call on you each in the order that your questions come in. If you're having trouble with the signal, either video or audio through the Zoom, please let us know at news@sagaftra.org, and we'll do what we can to help you from this end. Finally, I want to let you know that a transcript of this conversation and video will be uploaded to our website in a few hours. Today, you'll be hearing from Sarah Elmaleh, actor and chair of the SAG-AFTRA Interactive Media Negotiating Committee. You can reference our press release for the correct spelling of Sarah's name, and I'm going to give you a short bio information. You can also follow up at news@sagaftra.org if you'd like this sent to you by email. Sarah is an actor and voice director with a passion for collaborative creation. She's best known for roles in AAA games like Hi-Fi Rush, Halo Infinite, and Gears 5, and for indies like After Party Pyre and Gone Home. Sarah also has directing credits spanning production scope from Goodbye Volcano High to Fortnite. We're also joined, this is Sarah in the center. We're also joined by committee member Zeke Alton. Zeke is a voice, on-camera, and performance capture actor. He's a member of the negotiating committee for interactive, but also for TV film. Zeke's a Navy veteran of 20+ years and a former military test pilot whose video game credits include the Callisto Protocol, Call of Duty, and Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Andy Norris, to my left, is an actor, creature performer, and stunt performer who works extensively in performance capture. Past credits include The Immortals of Avium, Star Wars Vader Immortal, Stranger Things VR, and Predator Hunting Grounds. I also want to introduce to you SAG-AFTRA's Chief Contracts Officer, Ray Rodriguez, who's joining us by Zoom. Ray is the lead negotiator for SAG-AFTRA on this contract. Again, welcome, and now here's Sarah Elmaleh.
Hello, esteemed members of the press and my amazing fellow game performers. I'm Sarah Elmaleh, chair of the SAG-AFTRA Interactive Negotiating Committee. And as we've just announced, we are now on strike for video games. Our efforts to avoid this outcome and negotiate a fair deal have been inarguably collaborative and diligent. Many months of bargaining yielded tentative agreements on a range of proposals, and your overwhelming strike authorization vote of 98.32% in September brought the pressure needed to achieve a significant wage increase and safety provisions for our on-camera performers, as well as partial but dangerously incomplete AI provisions. Our AI proposals will provide comprehensive performer protection. The technology is complex, but regardless of the generative AI system in use, if your performance is being replicated, you deserve access to essential information, you deserve to give or not give your consent, and you need to be paid properly. Period. This is fair, this is feasible, and anything less is exploitation. Unfortunately, exploitation is exactly what the bargaining group would have us accept for ourselves. The employers refuse to plainly affirm in clear and enforceable language that they will protect all performers covered by this contract in their AI language. They insist we overlook obvious AI loopholes that imperil both movement and voice performance, which are, in today's games, frequently combined. Their offer is quite literally unacceptable. But we know that there are employers who are prepared to collaborate with us from a baseline of respect, and we stand ready to bargain in good faith with those partners. The tiered budget agreement, specifically aimed at smaller budget developers, incorporates our fair and reasonable proposals, including all of our AI provisions. We've already signed games, even at the lowest budget levels, proof that what we are asking for is not only just, but financially feasible. This agreement, as well as the interim interactive media agreement, are available right now, and games signed to those agreements will not be interrupted. Actors get to continue working with the protections they need, and everyone wins. This strike is the next phase of pressure. To the bargaining group, we are done waiting. This strike is about actors and employers building a paradigm of safe collaboration together through safe contracts, contracts with crucial safety protections, wage increases, and AI protections starting now.
Thank you, Sarah. Now, Ray Rodriguez.
Thank you, Pam. Every one of our members working under a SAG-AFTRA contract is delivering a performance, and that performance deserves to be protected. No one should be subjected to their performance, their voice, their likeness, or any aspect of the work they do being used to replace them without their informed consent and compensation. We have not yet been able to achieve that in bargaining, and until we do, effective 12:01 a.m., July 26th, so just after midnight tonight, we will be on strike.
Thank you, Ray. Zeke?
In every performance space that SAG-AFTRA covers with respect to artificial intelligence, it's vital that we bargain consent, compensation, and transparency in two areas. Those two areas are digital replicas and generative AI systems to create what we call synthetic performers. Now, a digital replica is when you use my recorded performance to create a model that can then independently create new performance as me without me being there. Now, while we've engaged in productive talks around consent and compensation on digital replicas of voices, as Sarah said, what's on the table is dangerously incomplete. We have given them the clear and understandable language that represents the base level of protections we need to even exist as a profession. And their response has been delayed, vague, and riddled with so many legal loopholes that we're left with practically no protection for our future. It's gross. Now, emerging generative AI systems, which by the way are unfairly trained on basically everyone's copyrighted works, will someday have the capability to create a synthetic character that looks, walks, and talks just like me simply by typing in a prompt. Now, to accept their provision around these new tools would be to blindly accept an obvious means of evading the digital replication protections that we've already bargained in the agreement already. Now, our AI proposals, they contain vital protections that complement what was achieved in prior negotiations, and without them, even those agreements are vulnerable. They also complement legislative efforts to protect performers, to set the precedent to protect the rights of other game workers in our industry and workers in every industry.
Thank you, Zeke. Andy?
As Sarah and Zeke and Ray all mentioned, the employer's AI provisions leave the folks who put their bodies on the line the most vulnerable to abuse. They say they get to choose, seemingly arbitrarily, who is a performer and who is just data. Our union represents all performers, and we refuse to allow our employers to disrespect a portion of our members who have poured their lives and talents into making great performances by saying we don't count. Performers are hired to bring their unique skills and qualities to game characters and to give realistic human weight to the impact of the world around them. The performers who bring their body of work to these games create a whole variety of characters, and all of that work must be covered. Their proposal would carve out anything that doesn't look and sound identical to me as I sit here, when in truth, on any given week, I am a zombie. I am a soldier. I am a zombie soldier. We cannot and will not accept that a stunt or movement performer giving a full performance on stage next to a voice actor isn't a performer. It would be like shooting all of second unit on a film without union protections simply because it's action. This bargaining group's AI provisions do not clearly and unambiguously acknowledge and protect movement as performance. They would leave movement specialists, including stunts, entirely out in the cold to be replaced without so much as notice by soulless synthetic performers trained on our actual performances. And just like our voice actor friends risk their vocal cords doing death cries for hours at a time, movement performers like me risk the rest of their necks doing falls, fights, wire work, more. We are experts in our craft. Performers who have years of training and the talent to embody the movement styles of everything from martial arts to fantastical creatures and to perform complex and dangerous stunts while remaining in character. We deserve the rights to our own likeness. All performers do. And while we are willing to fight and fall, we aren't willing to roll over.
Thank you, Andy. And Sarah, you have some closing words?
Again, we already know there are employers out there who believe that business and fairness are not only a compatible but a prosperous combination. And game performers are going to bring the same fearless passion, commitment, and adaptability to ensuring the future of this wonderful craft as they do to bringing games characters to life. There will be plenty of ways for journalists, streamers, fans, and anyone who cares about games and the overall fairness of this industry to support the cause and share our message. Read our strike rules, read our FAQs, pay attention when our union shares information, when we share information. Members plug into our buddy system. If you're at Comic-Con this weekend, have fun. It's exempt from our strike rules. We'll be there too. Come find us. Stay connected to each other and stay strong. Game performers, I love you. I love what you do, and I believe in you. You now have the tools and the choice to protect yourselves. The more we work without the protections we need, the greater the chance we lose them and we will not get them back. The more we work with the protections we need, the better the chance we get to keep them forever.
Thank you, Sarah, Ray, Zeke, and Andy. All right, we're going to open it up to questions now. Please raise your hands. And while you all are doing that, I want to give you the link to download our social media kit and all other information, including the press release from the website. You can go to sagaftra.org/videogames and video game strike. And there's a wealth of information to let you know all of the particulars. I also want to remind, Ray said this very clearly, but just for your information, the strike has been called. It is effective at 12:01 a.m. on the 26th, which is just after midnight tonight. With that, let's go to questions. Shannon Lau.
Hey there. Thanks so much. I'm wondering, I'm a gaming editor at Inverse. Wondering, you said that there was a 98% vote for yes in September last year. Why did you decide to strike now versus last year? What was the reason for the delay? And also, I'm wondering what's the impact on video games, upcoming video games, the strike could have.
Ray, do you want to take that?
Sure, I can certainly start. Listen, we wanted to give every opportunity for this issue to get resolved amicably through negotiations. That's always the union's first choice and greatest desire. We strike as a matter of last resort. So we have given this process absolutely as much time as we responsibly can. We have been negotiating this agreement for 18 months now. And it is time now to deploy the authorization that our members gave us. We have exhausted the other possibilities, and that is why we're doing it now. As to your other question as to the impact on games, union games will be struck, and anyone who is curious about a particular title and whether that title is struck, there is a search function built into our website that will allow you to go. It really works best if you have the SAG-AFTRA production ID, and we really encourage people to use that as much as possible. Code names, if you do not put them in exactly right, you may have to follow up by email to get a firm answer to your query, but that information is available.
Thank you, Ray. Anyone on the dais follow-ups? Are we good with that? Terrific. Let's move on. And as I call on you, please let us know your outlet. Jason Nelson.
Hello, Jason Nelson, Decrypt Media. I covered the strikes last year in Hollywood and across the country. What have you learned from that strike that might be applied to this one? And also, are you planning on having physical picket lines like last time? And what less have you prepared for heat and things like that, especially for people in Los Angeles? Right now, we're close to 100 degrees. So have you made any plans to deal with that?
Yeah, I want to talk briefly about what we learned from the last strike as a member of the TV Theatrical Negotiating Committee. I'll hit you with the really most important point, and that is that we're talking about emerging technology that is going to affect the entire world. We just happen to be the canary in the coal mine. We are setting a precedent for how the workforce in general, both in the United States and around the world, is going to be treated. Are they going to use this new emergent technology as tools for creatives and for workers to create efficiency? Or is this tool going to be used by executives to remove the worker? That's why this fight, the fight that came before and this one that follows on, has to build upon it. Because it's really, really important that we as workers in the labor environment in general understand that we have rights and that we're not here to just be wiped out.
And while we're certainly not going to give away the strike playbook today, I think that you can expect to see us on the streets at rallies and in other actions. And of course, we are going to take into consideration weather, temperature, and all other factors that might affect the health of our members. Thank you, Jason. And moving on, Kalia Richardson.
Hi, I'm Kalia Richardson with Rolling Stone. My question is somewhat similar, comparing it to the TV theatrical contract of last year. I wanted to know, I think some issues that some actors are presently having when it comes to AI protections is it seems like a condition of employment. So I'm curious to know within the current, interactive media agreement that you guys are bargaining on, how you will navigate video game companies maybe enforcing AI protections or AI consent forms as a condition of employment, if that makes sense.
Ray, I think that's probably for you, particularly with regard to anything you're seeing now.
Yeah, I mean, I think I understand the question and the fact that, perhaps there will be jobs where the employer will expect to be able to digitally replicate the person who is taking that job and may require that as a condition of any particular individual being hired. It is precisely because we know that there is that desire and there is that leverage dynamic between employers and individual performers that we have to have robust, collectively bargained protections in that space. It is not enough for an individual performer to negotiate their own protections with an employer. We have to have collectively bargained minimums of protection so that if a performer finds themselves in that circumstance, and that is something they're willing to do, they can take that job and still sleep at night and know that they haven't put themselves out of future work by agreeing to a digital replication for a video game. We need our members to be able to do the work that employers need done, but only pursuant to minimum standards that protect them. And that's why we're having this fight.
Thank you, Ray. And Jonathan Handel. We're not hearing you, Jonathan. Do you want to unmute?
There we are. Am I unmuted? I should be now.
You are, yes. Thank you. Your question?
Great, thank you. My question is for Ray, and if I understand the presentation correctly, the main or perhaps only issue remaining between the parties is our AI protections with regard to performance capture. Could you elaborate on that a bit as to whether that's the correct understanding and what the issues are with regard to performance capture? In other words, are they ruling it totally out of AI protections, or what exactly?
Yeah, I mean, there is technically another issue left on the table about the effective date of wage increases, Jonathan, but that is not the issue that brings us to this point. What brings us to this point is AI. Certainly, the scope of AI protections is one of two major issues, along with how we deal with generative artificial intelligence and purely synthetic performance. And the scope of those digital replica protections and ensuring that our movement performers are covered by those protections, that is probably the biggest fight in front of us. And until we feel confident that the protections will be extended to all our members working under this agreement, we're not going to be able to reach a conclusion to this negotiation, and that is going to require us to remain on strike until that happens.
Are you satisfied with the voice performance provisions on AI?
I think there is work to be done on voice performance as well, and there are holes even in what is being offered to voice performers. So I don't want to completely emphasize the motion performer side of this, because no, we're not completely there on voice performers either.
Thank you, Ray and Jonathan. Yes, of
Can I
course,
add to that
please.
answer? Jonathan, you followed the TV theatrical strike in depth, so you understand what we received in generative AI protections there, and how a lot of the membership felt about that. So let me be really clear. What we have on the table right now is a lot less than what we've achieved in any other contract. A lot less. So many holes that it puts our existence as performers in jeopardy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zeke. Okay, and to Lo Dodds.
Hi there, Aya Dodds for The Independent. Forgive me if this information was mentioned earlier and I missed it. I sort of received a phone call during the conference that I had to answer, but can you give me a sense of how many members are, I guess every member is affected by the strike insofar as if they want to do work in video games, they're affected by this. But I guess, do you have a sense of like how many members are regularly doing work in video games? Like, when one says, well, 160,000 people won't be doing work that they were doing previously, I guess that's not the case because not all of those people will be doing video games work. So I don't know, do you have like a ballpark number on just how many people are really going to be engaged in this strike with regards to their primary work?
I'm not even going to direct that because I think all four of them would say the same thing. All 160,000 of our members are covered by the strike order. Ray, do you want to go into any of the details of Lo's question?
I don't have a number offhand for how many of our members regularly work under the IMA, but I think that what Pam has said is really the most salient point, which is every member of the union is subject to the strike order and affected by this strike.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lo. And next is Sarah Parvini.
Hey, can you hear me?
We can. Thank you and welcome.
Great, thanks. This is Sarah with the AP. My question is related to a statement that I got from the representative for the studio bargaining group, who said that their offer was directly responsive to SAG-AFTRA's concerns and that it extended meaningful AI protections that include requiring consent and fair compensation to all performers working under the IMA. I'm wondering if there's any response, on your end to that specific statement that their proposal is for all performers. I know previously when we've talked, you've mentioned some of the disparity on covering voice versus physical performance. And so any type of clarification or comment on that would be great.
Yeah, I think that there are going to be a few people who want to respond on this, but let's start with the negotiator.
Sure, I'm happy to respond to that. I think the use of the word performer is key to understanding what the industry is really saying, because the industry has told us point blank that they do not necessarily consider everyone who is rendering movement performance to be a performer that is covered by the collective bargaining agreement. They dispute that coverage. You heard Andy reference the fact in her comments that she is being referred to and her work is being referred to in this negotiation as being simply data, right? Her performance is treated as data, and therefore, when the employers have framed their offer in terms of performance, they are actually potentially excluding a whole class of members from that. And you heard as well, there are requirements in there such as that, the digital replica has to be identifiable as the natural performer that did the work. And when Andy is performing as a zombie soldier, you're not going to know that it's Andy. And so when the protections are framed that way, it'll say the words on and off camera performers in the proposal, but when you read all the elements of it and compare it to the industry's bargaining positions and to the reality of how this work gets done, there are actually people being left out.
And anything to add here?
I thought that was quite comprehensive.
I have something to add.
Please do.
If it said on the piece of paper that they put across the table what they're saying, that all performers are covered, we wouldn't be sitting here. It's disingenuous. I'm sorry. All right. There is a base level that protects all of the members of this union, and that is what we expect, and that is what we demand. And that's why we're here, because we are not getting that. So you can say something, put it in the contract if you mean it.
Thank you, Zeke. Jeremy Fooster.
Hi, Jeremy Fooster, The Wrap. Several months ago, SAG-AFTRA reached a deal on consent and compensation for its members with Replica AI. I'm curious if there is anything that was in that agreement that the video game companies are not agreeing to or are part of the sticking points in this contract.
Ray, do you want
I
to?
mean, I think the short answer is yes. The union approved that agreement because it contained the elemental protections that we are looking for in this space. We wouldn't have approved it otherwise. And no, we are not achieving everything that we are getting to in the Replica. In this negotiation, we have not achieved everything that is in the Replica deal. And again, I think if we were in that place, we would be announcing a deal and not a strike.
Are there specific things like, is it around consent, around compensation? Is it trying to pinpoint specific things in that this AI company agreed to that these publishers are not as forthcoming on? Just trying to pull out something specific here.
I mean, if one of the committee members has a better specific recollection of the terms of the Replica deal, you should feel free to respond to that. I don't have that deal up in front of me, so I don't want to attempt a live red line.
Okay.
We can get back to Jeremy also if afterward, if that's
I can answer
better.
broadly.
Yeah, go for it.
Consent, compensation, and transparency. The consent that we have achieved with Replica Studios is not mirrored with what the employers are offering. The compensation is not mirrored with what the employers are offering, and there is almost no transparency, which makes it even more difficult because this technology, like I said, with a digital replica, can make a performance as me when I'm not in the room. And if there's no transparency and I don't know it's even occurring, there's no way to go back and ensure that we get proper consent and compensation.
Thank you,
Great.
Zeke. Ethan Gach.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, we sure can.
Yes, with Kotaku. First question, has there been any AI usage already at one of these companies that would run afoul of the rules that you're seeking? And how is that being dealt with? And then two, you mentioned the carve out for people appearing at Comic-Con this weekend. Are there any other carve outs in the coming weeks or months for specific games or events that would also allow people to speak about them?
Go ahead, Sarah.
I was going to say there are some nuances. If you're compared to, for example, the TV theatrical strike rules, there are some differences to pay attention to, but those will apply broadly and comprehensively after this one carve out for this weekend. Wait, there was another part of that question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Could you repeat the first part? We just skipped right over that.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
Yes, the first part was, are there any existing companies for this agreement that are
Right.
already using AI that would run afoul of these rules, and how is that being dealt with? Basically, have people's performances who are members of the guild already been captured in this way and possibly being replicated without their knowledge?
If we had those at hand, I think the course of bargaining would be somewhat different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we're not going to name companies, but Ray, Sarah, Andy, anyone?
I would just say we wouldn't necessarily know. I mean, I personally do have a concern that it is happening, but I'm not in a position to, actually cite chapter and verse to support that concern. But it is our concern that it is happening, and that we without the protections that we're looking for, that we wouldn't even necessarily know that it's happening.
Thank you, Ray. Cynthia Littleton.
Hi, thank you, Cynthia Littleton with Variety. Forgive me if this has been addressed, but can you give me a sense of the scope of the strike in terms of video game companies that have deals with the union? Would you say, is it 80% of the companies that have union contracts with SAG in terms of the scope of the video game publishers affected? And then the second part of that is, can you give us a ballpark on how many SAG-AFTRA members have worked under the interactive contract in the last couple of years? Thank you. Thanks for doing this. It's helpful. And also, while I have the mic, can I ask for just a little bit more clarity on Comic-Con and why it's exempt? That is the burning question from all the folks that we have down in San Diego right now.
So, Ray, would you like me to read the covered companies from the news release?
I mean, yes, you can read the covered companies from the news release, but the short answer is every company is struck unless it is signed to a tiered budget independent agreement, or it's going to sign the company is going to sign an interim agreement. Every company is at least potentially struck under this. So that is the scope of the strike, basically. Unless we have a standalone deal with you that contains the terms and protections we need, your company is struck.
So, Cynthia, the members of the convenience bargaining group with whom we're directly negotiating is listed in the release. I can read them now if you'd like to do that. But the important point is what Ray just said, every company, unless under the exceptions that he noted.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, no, you don't need to read. And the number of folks, and just a little more elaboration on Comic-Con.
So the number of folks, I think we have not pulled that number. But again, it's important to note that every member of SAG-AFTRA, all 160,000 of our members, are covered under the strike order on this action.
Great, thanks.
And I hesitate to guess, but we can potentially follow up with you afterward on the other
great.
number.
Thank you. And then Comic-Con, can you just explain?
I think it's just out of consideration of the fact that this is happening very quickly, and our members are no doubt kind of going to take some time to absorb the full scope of the strike order and the rules and all of that other stuff. We feel very passionately that being at Comic-Con in order to share what it is we need, why we need it, is the best way to serve this action, to be visible, to be loud, and to be open to conversation. And so that's one reason why we decided to allow that moment for folks to take their time and understand how exactly to be in compliance, while at the same time sharing this message as broadly and as quickly as we can.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks, Cynthia. Okay, and the last question is a follow-up from Shannon Lau. Shannon, is your hand up with a new question, or?
Yes, that's right.
great.
I also see that Ash has a question, but maybe I can just jump in here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I passed right over that. Apologies. Sorry, Ash, the record button is over your hand. Shannon, if you don't mind, he is ahead of you. Let's go to Ash.
Okay, sounds good.
Ash Parrish.
Hi, I'm Ash Parrish at The Verge. I just wanted to clarify the specific sticking point is that you are negotiating protections for both your voice and your motion performers. And it seems like, based on what I heard, because I jumped in a little late, is that the video game companies are not extending those protections to the motion performers. Yes, the voice performance, but not the motion performers. Is that correct?
Not entirely. So there are three kinds of performances generally that happen in video games: voice, face, body. Okay, because you can capture all of those. Those are all capture of performance. Each one of them individually and collectively are at risk with the proposal that they've put across the table. And until all three of them are not at risk and safely contained with the proposal that they put across the table, we're not done.
Okay, I gotcha. And if I could ask one more follow-up question, is I know that you guys have a website where you can put in codes to see what work is struck. Is there any kind of resource for people who will not have access to those codes, because you're talking about like code names and reporters and journalists are not going to have access to those codes? Is there a way that we will be able to access that like search tool and find out what video games are being struck?
So, and anyone can use the site, and but you will need that type of information in order to get a result. And that is both so that to acknowledge that secrecy is a large part of this industry, and to stay within the bounds of the code names and other things that allow us to do this work, while also making sure that anyone, including employers, can verify that their status is correct. And so that is the compromise that has been made.
Thanks, Sarah. Does that answer your question, Shannon? I'm guessing that's a yes. All right. Thank you all very much. That we've come to the conclusion of our
Hey.
questions. I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Cynthia. We've come to the Shannon, your hand is up. Is that a new question?
Yeah, sorry. It
No
doesn't let
problem.
me unmute when you were asking me, so I wasn't able to reply, actually.
No problem.
Yeah, so now I can ask my question. So I'm really concerned about or really have a question about Grand Theft Auto 6. I think that would be the biggest game that could be potentially affected by this strike. I was looking it up on the website. It says it is affected, but it says it could be non-union. So I'm wondering if you can provide some clarity on that. That's a game from Take-Two, which is mentioned in the press release.
Ray, do you want to take this?
I would not try to answer that question here. I think we should go back and look at the information with respect to that title. I couldn't tell you without looking.
Thanks, Ray. I do encourage everyone, though, to please check out the website at sagaftra.org/videogamestrike. We have copious amounts of information, including FAQs. You'll be able to find the strike rules there and understand exactly what the strike order means and who's covered and how. And so take a look at that. And if there are no other questions, we all want to thank you very much for your time and your interest today. And if you have follow-ups or additional questions, please feel free to reach out to Shira Reich, Linda Dorf, or me at news@sagaftra.org. And thank you again for joining us today.